This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Welcome to the G-Spot Podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us for conversations around sex, spirit, and all things self-care. All things self-care. All things self-care.
This is a journey into sound.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
You are a G-Spot Podcast with Katie Silcox.
Hey beauties, Katie here. Oh my lordy lord. Well, I've said it many times, the ancient peoples of the planet, including the Vedic society, called this the time of Kali in various different languages and ways. The time of the great fierce love, the time of the goddess. She's like a mother, right? And she's saying, you know what? You've been a naughty boy and you're going to have to go to timeout. That's happening on a collective level. All of us are being asked to share in this collective karma that we, in some ways, unconsciously have agreed to be a part of. We're here. That's how we know we've agreed, because it's happening. And we're being asked to really, really look at our world and what matters. And I know for me personally, what really matters is taking care of the earth and my own body and being able to share the abundance and beauty of life with the people in my life. And I was speaking with my mom the other day, and we're both obviously in isolation, as we all are. And she was just saying, we're never going to take for granted again the simple pleasure of being able to hug one another, right? So I wanted to come to you guys today, and I know everyone's being really, I don't want to use the word bombarded because I think it's a really good thing, but we're being given a lot of health information by many different opinions and world experts. And I certainly don't consider myself to be one of those in terms of understanding this virus. There are many more well-equipped people who are studying this and giving us great information about it. And I'm going to include a link to a video from one of my favorite people who is a research scientist, but also a spiritualist, named Greg Braden. And I'm going to include one of his recent video on coronavirus. If you want to just really empower yourself, to educate yourself on what it is, and we'll include that in the show notes. But what I do feel like I want to share with you guys is just what I'm really trying to do to keep my body strong, to keep my spirit strong, as we all go through this time. And the first thing is just to know that it's totally normal to be afraid. It's normal to feel like you've been knocked off your center. We don't want to normalize things too much. We want to actually get comfortable with the new normal. That's what we're all trying to do. And so while we don't want to overreact, we also don't want to underreact. Those are two patterns in the nervous system that we kind of oscillate between. If you find yourself one day saying, this isn't really a big deal. We all have it. We have all probably had it. We should just all get out in the world and get the herd immunity going. That's kind of one direction. And then maybe the next day you find yourself going in the opposite fear direction of, oh no, I'm worried that my mom or dad are going to die. I'm worried about the numbers of bodies piling, that whole kind of doom scene that all of us have had in our heads at one point in time. And neither of those are good nor bad. It's just to begin to notice that natural oscillation that our system does between fight and flight and freeze and overreaction and underreaction, or just reaction and non-action, inaction. It's normal to be afraid because we're actually on a spiritual level, we're being asked to up level. We're being asked to take in a lot of new information, and our immune systems are being asked to take in new information. This virus is very different from the flu. It's unlike anything we've ever had, although it does have some commonalities with things we've seen. It is a new packet of information for our system, and that's why some people are having a really, really hard time with it. And so our system is being asked to take in this new information and to respond, and that's a good thing. And by and large, our bodies are incredible pieces of intelligent software. Your body is going to take in the new information both emotionally, psychologically, energetically, and physically. And it's going to, without you doing much with your thinking brain, it's going to update the system. And that's what's really happening on a global scale. And that's really uncomfortable. This experience is asking us to be with uncomfortable facts about our world, the fact that we are not separate from one another. It's hitting all of us very, very hard. This fact that what happens in one part of the world immediately can cause a dramatic effect in the rest of the world. And so what can we do to make this world just such a thriving place? One of the things that I'm really feeling into and sensing is that the outcome of this is going to be that we make nature and that sense of being connected to nature and to other humans. This is now becoming like a visceral truth and of vital importance. In my neighborhood, we're all in isolation, of course, but people are out in their gardens. There's this natural desire to take walks in nature and I've been doing a lot of laying down on the ground. It's amazing to me to hear the sound of little children fighting sweetly with one another out in the backyard at Wednesday, at 9 a.m. with their dad, who's normally at work, and just being able to hear these children laughing and to really be able to find the good in the situation. There's a way that this is also really bringing us together. We're being almost forced, right, to be with our families, or many of us are being forced into isolation. And so we'll talk about that in a moment. Just watching neighbors coming out and actually, even though obviously we're keeping 6 feet of distance or even more, I've actually seen way more of my neighbors on my street than I've ever seen in my life, right? There's this soothing component to that all over the world, we are all going through this together. So it's normal to be afraid, but I want to talk a little bit about what I'm working with in myself, and that's the strategic use of our attention, which is a term that I learned from Steve Hoskinson of Organic Intelligence, who works a lot with trauma and the nervous system. And strategic use of our attention is that what trauma does is trauma is a natural vortex. What that means is fear, if we're just going to speak about what's going on right now, fear is a vortex, and it's incredibly seductive. I wake up every morning and I'm going to be looking at the front page of the New York Times. And I think that right now we kind of need to be aware, right? There's a difference though. And even as I read that, I can feel the seduction of fear and what it does to my cells. And what it does to my cells is it constricts them. And when the cells become constricted, the life force, the prana can't flow, the intelligence, and therein the immunity. And so you want to really, really watch that. Is there a way that I can remain informed without being sucked in by the vortex of fear? And I think for every single listener out there, you're going to have to be the one that's going to have to titrate that amount of information that you let in every single day. I know myself, and I'm a very highly sensitive person, and so I might be able to take in a couple drops of it. Others of you may be able to watch it all day long and have less of effect, but you need, to thine own self be true, know thyself. But in general, we want to watch the seduction of fear and to practice using our attention strategically. And so this podcast has some resources in it around meditation. We also have the Lineage of Love. We've got a free month-long trial. You guys can always get in that for free. Check it out. Cancel anytime. We'll put the link in the show notes. But those Lineage of Love practices, guys, really important. Getting in your body, getting in your bones, being able to look at the world through the gateways of your five senses, to be able to remember that right now, like, I'm looking outside and everything's pristine. It's almost like nature's like giggling and laughing at us and cleaning herself through our forced isolation practices. I know this is it's almost like a trite thing to say, but it's just so true. Like, the power of practicing gratitude is really important. It's interesting to notice what books I've started to bring out when Corona started to become a big thing in my life and collectively. And it's interesting. Here sits Pandit Rajmani's translation of the Yoga Sutras, which we'll put the link to, is just one of the best books in the world. The Bhagavad Gita, the Jesus calling verses from the Bible. Like, the old classics start to come out. It's interesting. Who do you pray to when you're afraid of dying? That's your Ishta Deva. In other words, that's your personal relationship to the divine. Who do you call out to when shit hits the fan? I call out to my bro, JC, Jesus Christ. I call out to my mama Mary, Mary Magdalene, and her mother Mary. That's who I reach for, right? And so that's just me. And you may have a totally different way of reaching, right? But the point is, there's a magical mantra available to all humans at this moment in time, and that moment is help. That mantra, rather, is help. Help me. There was a verse yesterday, a passage from the Jesus Calling book, and this book is, if you're not a Christian and you even bristle maybe at the mention of Christianity, let me just say, there's a tantric way of working with this book, and it's really the message of the Bible when we go into what I believe are mystically inspired parts of the Bible, and even the Gnostic parts of the Bible that didn't make the Bible that you and I were brought up with, are really just perennial precepts of mystical and spiritual deep thought and deep experience. And so March 25th, that was yesterday's, we'll be putting out this podcast this week. So it says, let thankfulness temper all your thoughts. A thankful mindset keeps you in touch with me. I hate it when my children grumble, casually despising my sovereignty. Thankfulness is a safeguard against this. Furthermore, a grateful attitude becomes a grid through which you perceive all life. Gratitude enables you to see the light of my presence shining on all your circumstances. Cultivate a thankful heart, for this glorifies me and fills you with joy. And who is this me and you that this passage is talking about? The way that Vedic and Tantric cosmology understands this is the me is you and the you is you. What does that mean? It means, listen, guys, like, in all of us, there's this little girl right now, or little boy who's freaking the F out, totally freaking out, right? And you may be able to see that little part of you. And as I start to talk about it, I'll get a little emotion arise to the surface. There's this part of all of us that's really scared. And the ancient teachings speak of this as our common humanity. There is a force in all of life, including me and you, that does not want to die, right? There is a force inside of us, I believe the Sanskrit's abhinivesha, that does not want to die. Okay, so we can own and love and accept that part of us. And there's a part of us that's afraid of suffering, right? Dukkha. We don't like dukkha. Dukkha means suffering. We want to avoid suffering and we want to avoid death. And so what this global pandemic is doing, it's saying, hey, that is a part of life. And it could happen to any of us. And so this experience collectively is breaking this illusion that all of us have been walking through, or many of us have been walking through, that things are normal. We were in a normalcy. We're in a stagnation, if you will. And that can be good, right? Like when things are settled, it's a good experience. We want to have a certain level of stability in our lives. But when things are stable over time, they can become stably imbalanced. And I think that's really where we are. We become stagnant in our imbalances. And so this experience is saying, you know what? You were never you were never immune to things like this. Death is always an option for you. And this has really brought this, and your loved ones, right? And this has really brought this into light. So now that we're good and depressed about that, let's come back to this me and you thing. So there's a part of us, right, that's really afraid. There's a part of us that is afraid for ourselves and afraid for our loved ones and our world. And then there's this other part of us that every tradition speaks of, and that's this me thing, right? When this verse says, a thankful mindset keeps you in touch with me. I'm going to say that again. Maybe you want to put your hand on your heart. A thankful mindset keeps you in touch with me. And if you're anything like me, man, I forget that every single day. You know, I get, especially with everything going on in our world, it's so easy to get caught up in all the issues and problems. And trust me, they're real. There are people that are really struggling right now. And we're all being asked to really radically shift our plans, right? And so I can become very caught and merged into the whirlwind that is my little scared girl, the whirlwind that is the fragile part of my humanity that feels vulnerable right now. And I can forget that that's not the only me that's here. I become so consumed by that wild whirlwind that is this life, right? And it's all and ever-changing vicissitudes that I forget about the something else that's there. But I feel it right now. Do you feel it in you? There's a part of me that is unchanging. If you want to know more about that unchanging part of you, reading the Bhagavad Gita, reading this translation on the Sutras, reading a spiritual text, I've got this little Jesus Calling book that for me is so tantric, really brings me back into contact with that Purusha, that unchanging one that sits in my heart, that has been with me since I was born, that will accompany at the gateway of my death, that will continue on with me wherever I happen to go after that. And that the Bhagavad Gita speaks of as the Lord of love, the Lord of our heart. Waiting on me means directing your attention to me in hopeful anticipation of what I will do. It entails trusting me with every fiber of your being instead of trying to figure things out yourself. Waiting on me is the way I designed you to live all day, every day. I created you to stay conscious of me as you go about your daily duties. And who is this me? It is this ever-present witness in the heart, this Lord of love that lives in our hearts. I have promised many blessings to those who wait on me. I promise them renewed strength. I promise that they will be able to live above their circumstances. I promise a resurgence of hope. I promise an awareness of my continual presence. Waiting on me enables you to glorify me by living in deep dependence on me, ready to do my will. It also helps you to enjoy me in my presence its fullness is fullness of joy. Who is this me? This me is this inner Lord of our heart, this energetic of each and every one of us that we have to love and to be loved and to be able to witness that. The Gita says this is another book that I've been leaning into. In verse 14, sit thus in yoga meditation, serene and fearless, firm in the vows, with the mind calm, think of me and only me. Who is this me everyone keeps talking about? Sit thus in yoga meditation, serene and fearless. That doesn't sound like me lately, right? Does that sound like our world? Does that sound like our media? Serene and fearless? No, it's the opposite. And so when we sit to meditation, what I really want to press upon us all is there will be parts of you that are not serene and not fearless. And to be able to bring in that calm mind, that presence, enables us to embrace every aspect of ourselves. But we don't become merged with them. So I can have fear, but I don't have to become fear and fearful. I can experience the turmoil and I don't have to become it. I can get angry and experience that at the world right now, but I don't have to become that. Swami Satchidananda's translation is the one I'm reading, and he says, if we could all do that, there would be no need to meditate. Erase all fear from the heart means don't even be afraid of God. Just be in that serenity. Remember that you are a child of God and you will experience fearlessness. Very beautiful. There's a part of us right here, right now, in this moment that is not afraid. The last thing I want to read you guys is from this little sweet book called The Prayers of Rabindranath Tagore. It's such a sweet book. He was a Nobel Prize winning poet from India, and just a really beloved figure from that time period. He died in the 40s, and he really kind of like the Psalms in the Bible or Rumi's language of love. He really comes from this place of a personal, loving relationship to the divine in his own heart. This one's called Hold My Hand. Deliver me from my own shadows, O Divine One, from the wreck and confusion of my days, for the night is dark and your pilgrim is blinded. Hold my hand. Deliver me from despair. Touch with your flame the lightless lamp of my sorrow. Waken my tired strength from its sleep. I love that line. I'm going to say that again. Waken my tired strength from its sleep. Do not let me linger behind counting my losses. Let the road sing to me of the house at every step. For the night is dark and your pilgrim is blinded. Hold my hand. Beautiful. So, from the sublime to the mundane, let's talk about prevention, you guys. Let's talk about immunity. Let's talk about health. How can we stay strong? How can we make sure that we're doing our best to waken that tired strength inside of us? We really want to choose the foods that you know are good for your body. And right now, soups are a really good thing because they help reduce kapha, which is high at this time, but they're also warming and building for the immune system. So bone broth, sipping on bone broth with ginger, cooked and steamed veggies with olive oil or ghee. Any of the kapha reducing foods right now are going to be great for us. So like fresh fruits and veggies over heavier things, fried, sugary things, always we want to avoid. If you have my book, Healthy, Happy, Sexy, there's a huge section in there about springtime routines and reducing kapha. That's not really the topic for today. day. But if you do have the book, just make sure to kind of check that out and follow that. As much as you can, get your hands and feet in the dirt, be outside in your yard, lay down on the earth. The electric magnetic frequency of the earth is balancing. We need to rebalance our systems. In some traditions, when people were sick, they would go bury them in the backyard for a few hours, not actually, bury them, but put them in a hole in the backyard. They wanted to get that electromagnetism of the earth online. Make sure you're in Lineage of Love. As I said before, we have all of those practices for meditation in there. You can get in for, if you're like, I can't afford it, at least get in for the first month. It's totally free. And that way you could at least have a month of support during this time. Neti pot. Oil in the ears and nose is really helpful. I'll give you guys some links that Banyan has that we love if you haven't gotten those things yet. The herbs that I'm really leaning into right now, I take a wellness formula, which is a combo that has good things in it like Echinacea, Astragalus, a bunch of good Chinese herbs, really high in the vitamins that you need right now. And on that note, zinc, selenium, vitamin D, vitamin C, and L-lysine are all things I'm taking right now. An abundance of evidence shows the antiviral activity of these things. And in general, just want to say, this isn't me telling you doses. It's not me giving medical advice. This is just educational purposes. It's up to all of our listeners to do their research on how much you should take. You always want to consult with a healthcare provider, especially if you're pregnant, breastfeeding. Really educate yourself on this. So everything I'm offering today is for purely educational, informational reasons. Reishi and Astragalus are both really well-known ancient adaptogens, and science is showing very good potential immune protection, especially from things like reishi as well as some of the other mushrooms. Also, make sure that you are watching things that are not heavy and that are positive. So funny things, lighthearted things. We're watching RuPaul's Drag Race. We're watching Love Island. It's so beautiful to watch hot young people falling in love and then falling out of love. It's just easy, right? We want to make sure that we're giving our body good, funny things right now. Laughter is truly the best medicine. And there is a lot of humor during the darkest of times, so tap into that. Another thing, lastly, I just want to say is just on that note of tapping into energetics, there's a very strong energetic current of fear in the world that we're all tapped into, and it's easy to tap into. There is also a concurrent and equally strong energetic of resiliency, immunity, love. Our community bonds are really growing right now. So tap into that. Self-isolation does not mean social isolation. In other words, we may not be able to be physically in the same room with one another, but that doesn't mean that this time can't be used in such a beautiful way to reinstate our social bonds. So make sure that you're calling your friends and family. Having Skype, having FaceTime really helps. Take this time to connect with the people that you may have not connected with in a while. It can be a really beautiful experience I know for me, it's been a side consequence of course, the very disturbing time we've been in is that I've been able to really talk with my brother way more than ever because he's a very, very busy man and now he's less busy. So I'm sure you guys have lots of stories about that as well. Lastly, support people as much as you can. I am not canceling any of my subscriptions. I am going to do my best to continue to support our local businesses in whatever way that's possible. And so I was reading a really great New York Times article on if many people in the middle class and other classes are able to afford a cleaning person. It's a very common thing, and how people in the cleaning industry are often, paid in cash, and those people are the first people to get kicked out. If you have the means for the next month to be able to continue to pay your cleaning staff, to continue to maybe purchase gift certificates from your hairdresser or your trainer, whatever you're doing, I think these will be a really beautiful way. And I realize that not everyone is going to be able to do that. But if those of you that are able to, maybe you have a month or 7 months or 18 years worth of savings, those of you that aren't living week to week or month to month, maybe we can be those people that really try to keep those people on the planet that are living week to week, in some cases, month to month, we can keep them strong. And I really feel strongly about that, and we'll continue to really ponder that and think of ways that we can build that together. We're going strong over here at Shakti School. Our level 1, our level 2 starts on Tuesday, and we're just getting the feedback that, oh my God, thank goodness for Shakti School, and we're just so glad that we have this place where we can support one another and really learn what I believe is going to become more and more the most important information on the planet, and that's how to stay healthy. So guys, thank you for listening. I hope that you are all well, and we're going to get through this together. Much love.
फूटे फूल